guys are able to hear me now? Can you need to put that on mute? Or just disconnect from it?
Yes, the whistle in the background, Ronnie.
Okay, just 1 second. There's feedback from the other one. Okay. All right, excellent. So it should be now showing my screen. Are you able to see this?
It's loading.
Yeah, loading. Okay. Sorry, I'm just going to give me a hand. I'll download this. Is this in presentation? Yeah, just unopen that. Is it on full screen? Okay. Are you guys able to see my screen now, webinar 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, do you see the screen which shows webinar 3? It actually says 5th April, but it's obviously 19th July. It's slightly old version on the laptop. But can you see it?
Screen.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent, guys. I'm going to crack on. I'm going to crack through this. This should be good. So we spoke about Buckminster Fuller's quote about you never change things by fighting existing reality. Change something, build a new model that makes the old model obsolete. So I'm just going over it again in case we can use this one file for recording. We discussed the objective of this webinar series, and Simran shared how that's transforming for her in her life, taking this on. And the assignment of today's webinar, the objective of today's webinar is to look at the process of the breakdown and distribution of foods within our body. You know, what slows down our metabolism and how we can boost it, what we can do to really boost our metabolism. So that's what we're going to look at today. So, first of all, to start off with is last webinar, 2 weeks ago, I asked you guys to start observing and consider what is it that happens to our food from when we eat it. So we're going to look at that journey, and understanding this journey will really empower us to relate to food differently, start consuming foods functionally. So what I mean by that is understanding what happens after we've consumed the food. So here's a little high-level summary of what happens through our food. So digestion time really varies between individuals and significantly varies between men and women. After you eat any food, it takes about 6 to 8 hours for food to pass through our stomach and small intestine. Food then enters our large intestine, or what's called the colon, for further digestion, absorption of water, and finally elimination of undigested foods. Now, what happens in the 24 hours of digestion, 24 hours after digestion? Well, firstly, we take about 10 to 30 seconds to chew food. And what we chew will be in our stomach within 3 seconds of actually swallowing it. But the waste won't be excreted from our body up until a day later. So what happens in between? That's what we want to understand, what happens in between. When we know that, we can shift how and what we consume. So as soon as it reaches the stomach, the first thing is that your food is broken down and ground into smaller, tiny particles with the help of stomach acid. And it's usually done at a rate of about 3 to 4 calories a minute. A large meal with high fat content will be harder for the acid to break down. But a 600-calorie roast dinner, for instance, will be in our stomach for about 2 to 3 hours. Next, the food travels into a small intestine where it's further broken down. More nutrients are absorbed into the bloodstream before it enters the colon after another 2 to 3 hours. That's where water and salt are extracted. And then for the next 20 or so hours, it's working its way through our colon or through the large intestine. So the whole thing takes about 24 hours. But there's a huge variation in what we call normal. And it can be actually anything from 16 to 30 hours. Remember, we're not all the same. And it also varies depending on the food that we've consumed. So individual foods vary in time taken to pass through. There was a study, these are some of the findings from a number of studies from different universities. And a complex hamburger, as an example, it can take up to 3 days for a complex hamburger to be digested, whereas simple fruit, or what are called monosaccharides, can be digested in less than an hour. Digestion, generally, some facts for you to know is it is slower in women than it is in men, possibly due to gut hormones that aid digestion. They're less powerful in women, according to some research. Digestion also slows down with age as the system becomes less effective. I also invite you to listen to that responsibly. Don't think, oh, because I'm old, it slows down. As we distinguish in other webinars, and I continually saying, keep sharing that age only has an impact when you've decided to change your lifestyle and level activity with age. Now that we're all making everybody here young and energetic as kids, you get to determine how your body reacts to so-called age. Also things like medication, like blood pressure medication, antidepressants, they all cause slowdown in bowel movements. Mood plays a significant part. So anxiety can slow down digestion, and that's probably something that gets adapted if you're stressed. We spoke about cortisol levels, and those of you that aren't familiar with cortisol, I'm going to very quickly touch on cortisol. Cortisol is, and you want to listen to this carefully, cortisol is what's known as a stress hormone. And what happens is, if you think about it, in the last webinar, we spoke that we are predominantly hunters and gatherers. And when we would go out to hunt, if there's a lion about to attack us, our body releases this thing called cortisol, which pushes up our blood sugar. And as it pushes up our blood sugar, it empowers us to react and use that sugar to dissipate energy, so either to fight or flight. But if we're not faced by that lion or that threat, we still have maybe an accounting deadline at work, or we're stressing about an upcoming marriage, or we're stressing about our own bodily image. By stressing about it, we are actually releasing cortisol. It's also why I tell participants, as we're going through this challenge, don't look at yourself in the mirror or look at the scale not moving and stress about that. You will stress about that if you are chasing the results. If you focus on the habits and the actions that we tell you to take, that's all you should focus on. Don't focus on the results and keep questioning why it's not getting there. Always look at your actions. So cortisol, when it pushes up our blood sugar, if we do not spend that energy, it has to go somewhere. It goes into storage. And what it does when the blood sugar level comes down is we suddenly feel this low in sugar and we think we need to replace that. And so we're subconsciously conditioned to reach for something sweet when we're stressing out, or we reach for a soft drink or a chocolate. And that's why you find that when we are working late in offices, we tend to go and grab a host of these things. I used to do it when I was at work. I'd go and grab some canned drink from the dispensing machine, or some chocolate or some crisps, and all thinking that I'm getting really hungry, but it was all driven by the stress of the workload ahead. Present conditions also speed up the process. So there's irritable bowel syndrome, right? That also makes us generally be digesting faster, which is not a great thing.
Sorry, Ronnie, you mind speaking up just a little bit?
Sure.
I'm just having... Thanks.
Sure. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just be mindful to be close to this laptop. Is better than this? Yeah. Okay. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to actually put on the mic. Thanks for letting me know. Is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It comes in and out. Like sometimes it's really quiet. I can hardly hear you, and then other times it's quite normal.
Okay. I've put on actually earphones and a mic, and I'm holding the mic by my mouth. So if it does drop again, if it's not clear, please let me know. All right. Great. So that's giving you guys a general sense of what's happening through the journey of food going through our system over generally 24 hours. And the type of food impacts how long it takes. Key thing to note that. And therefore, if we're going to hack, what I call hack our metabolism, so we're going to trick our body, what we're going to do is we're going to fuel it over this program with foods that are easy to break down, and therefore we start reprogramming our metabolism to break down foods faster, right? So it's part of why we have certain foods not allowed, because those generally take longer, or they push our blood sugar high too fast. Okay, so what should we consume to ensure that we're getting the right fuel and nutrients in our body? Well, firstly, water. We need to consume between 2 to 4 liters of water daily over this program. More water on days, especially that we are doing workouts, that contributes both to hydration, and hydration contributes to speeding up metabolism, and therefore contributes to weight loss as well. It also contributes to the breakdown of food and flushing out of waste. It prevents also constipation. Carbohydrates, right? So carbohydrates are our source of energy. And within carbohydrates, there are what are called high versus low carbohydrates, and good versus bad, or what we call good versus bad carbohydrates. So this is our reference to what's called the glycemic index. You can Google what glycemic index is, or you can look at the website glycemicindex.com. It's basically a scale of various foods that are put upon a scale to say, when we consume this type of carbohydrate, how quickly does it push up our blood sugar level? This is a very, very important thing to know, and this is the answer as to why a lot of you ask, why can we not eat this carb or that carb, but we can eat this one? Foods that push up our blood sugar too high too quick also crash too quick, and when they crash too quick, they make us go and reach for more carbohydrate or sugar to get back on that high. So the best way to do it is to have carbs that push our blood sugar to a moderate level and over a longer period. So those are what we call low glycemic index foods. There are also medium glycemic index foods, which would be on a scale of between, I think, 55 to 75 or 85. But they're still, in my perception and for purposes of a transformation program, relatively high in terms of GI scale. So you'd want to go for foods that have a glycemic index of 50 or 55 and below. Protein is for muscle growth and recovery. Again, the timing of protein matters. If we have worked out heavily on a certain day, we need to consume protein. The largest portion of protein of the day should happen about 30 minutes after our workout, our intense workout, and that allows the rebuild of muscle. Also, when we go to rest, having some protein before we go to bed is great, because while we're resting is when muscle building is happening. Fats. Fats are great for reserve energy, and we often get mixed up when we talk of fat. There's stored fat in our body, and then there is fats that we consume. The fats that we consume, it's crucial to understand what are good fats and bad fats. Good fats are those that will contribute to breakdown and slow release of energy. Bad fats are those which they don't generally contribute to release of energy. They end up, they have a high cholesterol, and they are saturated fats generally, and they contribute to what's called atherosclerosis and arteriosclerosis. So this is basically the stiffening and the blocking of our arteries. So they would end up contributing to things like high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, high cholesterol levels, and so we want to avoid those bad fats. Most bad fats are generally saturated fats. There are few saturated fats that are good for us, and those would be like coconut oil. So coconut oil is one of the few saturated fats that we can consume. Also nuts. Amongst nuts, most nuts are great for us, like almonds, cashews. The ones that aren't great are actually peanuts. I love those. I grew up in Zambia. I was consuming loads of those, and I used to think they were great for me for the protein, but the fat in them is not great content. So also peanuts or groundnuts are to be avoided. Vitamins and minerals. What are they for? What's their role? They're there to strengthen immune system, support cell growth, organ function, healthy skin, and strong bones. They also contribute to hair growth. They help as well with breakdown of food as micronutrients. So vitamins and minerals are what we call micronutrients. Carbohydrates, proteins, and fats are what we refer to as macros or macronutrients. And fiber. Fiber is actually a sort of form of carbohydrate, but it's actually not digested. It contributes to digestion mobility, or what we call the building up of bulk in our body, and it also is what aids the passage of waste products to our digestive system. So greater fiber in food minimizes things like constipation, and it aids in speeding up digestion. Any questions on this so far before I move on to the next slide?
What about, so I've heard that mixed things about peanuts. So peanut butter is a no-no, effectively. And what about almond butter?
No, almond butter is good. Peanut butter is also good. I would recommend you have peanut butter, which is the one with no added sugar, and also having it in moderation. The thing about peanuts...
What's moderation? Is it like that
between
teaspoon?
Yeah, probably about 5 to 10 grams of it. So if you applied it on one rice cake or one low GI carb Ragvita biscuit, right? You spread it on two of those. That's enough for a day, I guess. So any more than that would be excess. Likewise, when it comes to actual peanuts, most packets come in about 150 grams to a 500-gram packet. And the challenge with those is they're salted, and they are also flavored in a way that if we start the pack, we're generally going to finish that pack. And so we find that we've just blown our calorie budget and our fat budget for that day with the wrong types of fat. So peanut butter in moderation, 10 grams a day, about that much, 10 to 15 grams. Sorry?
If we, because I tend to have it in the morning, if I have food for snack, I tend to have 1 teaspoon of either almond or peanut butter, but it's because I understood that it helps slowing down the sugars of the fruit. Is that correct?
In a way, it's correct. So you mix, do you mix it with something?
No, it's like if I have fruit in the morning, together with my fruit, I would have a teaspoon of almond butter or peanut butter, whatever is in my drawer.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily, depending on how you're having them. So if you're having it together, it will slightly slow it down. What slows down release of fruit sugar, yes, is nuts. So sometimes fruit and nut packets, the reason why fruit and nut packets are better than fruit packets alone or nut packets alone.
So no, I have fresh fruit, because normally if I have just fruit, I feel like the sugar rush and then I get hungry. But I found that if I have almonds or just a little bit of peanut butter, I seem to last much longer.
Correct.
So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, you can have it that way. If you notice, even in our meal plans, we recommend like blueberries and almonds as a snack. Yes, you can have it that way, and almonds are the best of the nuts.
Cheers.
Okay, great. So I'm going to move on now quickly to the next slide. So what is food? What is food's role to us? So think of food as fuel to our cells, and it contributes to two things. It contributes to growth and physical activity. Growth is further broken down into two types of growth. Either you're adding fat, which is size, or you're adding muscle, right, which is the great size that we want added. An analogy that I love to think of is think of metabolism as inside our body there's this chain reaction that's happening, or there's a combustion process that happens. And oxygen comes in, there is heat, and fuel is applied, and that creates the combustion. So consider your firewood, your food, or your macronutrients as the firewood. Oxygen is what you breathe in, and the flammables are things like your micronutrients, digestives, spices, water, and so on. Those things that aid the digestion process. So this is just a high-level way of understanding the combustion that happens in our body. We're now going to look at metabolism. So that's the intro into metabolism. So what is metabolism? It's a collection of chemical reactions that take place in the body cells, converting the fuel that we eat into the energy needed to power everything we do, from moving to thinking to growing. Metabolic reactions occur to keep the body cells healthy and working. There are two interactive channels by which metabolism runs. So one is called catabolism, and the other one is called anabolism. Catabolism is the breakdown, anabolism is the constructive metabolism or the building process. So catabolism is the breakdown of food components such as carbs, proteins, fats into their simple forms, which is then used and converted into energy. So in this particular process, our body cells would break down the carbs and fats to release energy, and that fuels all anabolic reactions. So the heating of the body, giving muscles power to contract, allowing the body to move, that's what catabolism does. The anabolism, or the constructive metabolism, is about building and storing. So the anabolic processes support the growth of new cells, maintenance of body tissue, and the storage of energy use in the future. So the storage of energy use is stored predominantly as fat, and very small amount of energy is often tapped into from muscle. So the three parts to metabolism, generally three parts to metabolism that we should understand, or terminology that we often hear being thrown around. So first one is resting metabolic rate. It's the amount of energy required to maintain the functioning of the body, right? And of the total metabolism that our body, or total calorie burn that our body creates in a day, 60% is just for our resting metabolic rate. You might also hear a term called BMR, or basal metabolic rate. And basal metabolic rate is slightly less than your RMR, and it refers to the minimal functioning of your body, just to have your organs and all be functioning. So it's slightly less than that, but it's not as significant a figure to that you need to know, understand. What's more important is understanding your resting metabolic rate. The other two aspects of metabolism is understanding the thermic effect of feeding and thermic effect of activity. So thermic effect of feeding is the amount of calories we use to eat and digest food. So think about it, when food comes in, there's some energy required to break it down. That's 5 to 10% of our calorific needs. So we actually need energy to break food to give us more energy. And then there's thermic effect of activity. This is the rate at which we burn calories for exercise, for working out, for training. And that generally is 30% of our calorific needs across the day, or what we consume. So any questions on this so far? I'm sharing this because you need to just understand, when you look at figures on Runkeeper, like this is your goal of calorie intake, this is how much you spend in a day, and so on. It's just good for you to understand that that figure that they call your goal has been derived from a calculation based off knowing your age. They will ascertain your basal metabolic rate, your resting metabolic rate, and additional calorific requirements for breakdown of food, as well as energy that you require. Okay, so I'm going to move on from here, and we're going to look at a very simplistic way for metabolism. You know, it's very easy for me to create a program and challenge where I tell you the science on top of the science that's already there. And I think one of the biggest follies about fitness industry is people don't understand this, because a lot of the complex stuff is being shared and taught to people. So I did share this slide that we're showing now, and I did talk about metabolism and catabolism. But does that really contribute to you causing transformation? Not significantly. I think what's required out there is a very simplistic understanding. So this is a very simple understanding of metabolism. It's how I was taught it and how I was coached about it by a personal trainer in a gym, just explaining to me what metabolism is. When you hear people say I have a high or low metabolism, think of metabolism as a process that breaks down food. And it breaks down food and it's converted into three things. It will be converted into energy, and that's a demonstration of a guy going for it. Muscle, so there's a lady building a muscle there, or fat. And that's an very old picture of me at the bottom there. Now, if we know that that's metabolism, it converts it into three things. There are two things about metabolism that we can play with, or that we can tweak. One is what we call the effectiveness. So how um, how quickly can it convert it to energy, muscle, and fat? How quickly we can make it, so we can make it speed. The second one is the efficiency, which means how much of it can we command goes to energy, how much of it can we command goes into muscle, and how much of it can we command goes to fat. The way we command that, this is very important to get this. If you just understand this slide of the whole challenge, you could really, really shift yourself. The way we command how that food goes is the activity that follows our food intake. So if you eat right now, you've eaten your supper, you sat here on this webinar, and after this webinar you go to sleep, guess what you just did? You told your body that food that I've eaten, I just needed to sit around and I just needed to sleep. So you have created a very low calorific demand. And therefore your body says, actually this dude or this girl, she doesn't require a lot of energy. So let's slow down how much we convert to energy. Let's put more into storage, which is fat. And so that's how I made my metabolism make me so fat and heavy over 12 years in banking, because I would eat at my desk, I would sit at my desk, I would eat late meals, and I would knock out in front of the TV. I would doze off with, my pizza in my hand or pizza on the table in front of me. And I was commanding it to create the dude at the bottom. But now that I understand a bit of the science, I can alter that. The other thing that makes a difference is how do we increase what goes towards muscle? The way we increase what goes towards muscle is we first create the demand in the muscle. So this is why we say you've got to do resistance training, and doing the resistance training creates a tissue tear. In future webinars, we'll talk about how muscle is built, how tissue is torn, and it gets rebuilt based on us consuming protein after we've created the tissue tear. When we go to sleep, it starts getting rebuilt. So all this is important for you to understand metabolism. When you know this, you start owning your body rather than you being at the effect of what your body says you can or cannot do. Any questions on this so far? Okay, we're going to move on. So how does our metabolism slow down? Now, a lot of us in life, we use logic. You know what logic is? Logic is ascertain the options, then take the one which presents the least amount of risk and possibly decent reward. That's what logic is. So when we follow logic in life, we become a statistic, we become an average, and we just become, we're not a go-getter, right? So I'll tell you how logic works. Logic is driven by the mind. The mind, remember, we talk about it throughout the webinar series. The mind is a muscle that's designed to protect us. It will choose the route that gives us the most comfort, or the route that gives us the least resistance. So when we follow logic, we think, okay, logically speaking, if I want to lose weight, I should eat less. So that's a brilliant way of slowing down your metabolism. I am always eating. If you ever come to visit me at the office, you'll find snacks and drinks around my desk. If you saw, well, it wasn't today's face-to-face, but if you ever catch up with me, you'll find snacks in my pockets, in my bag, or drinks. Not having an effective meal schedule is a great way of slowing our metabolism down. So firstly, it's not frequent enough. Next one is lack of sleep. We often think working hard means we sleep less, and therefore we think we're doing more, but we're actually doing less, and we're actually slowing down our metabolism. Dehydration, as I mentioned earlier, water contributes to breakdown of food. So you want to have enough water to allow your body to go through the proper digestion process. Stress, we spoke about the hormone cortisol. The more you stress about your progress in this challenge, the more you stress about the money issues you have in your world, the more you stress about your relationship status, the more you're working against getting results in those areas, because you make yourself slower, lethargic, and we actually are commanding our body to store fat. Moods have an impact on metabolism. So if we're moody people, or for ladies, at that time of the month, it actually slows down our metabolism. Again, age, but like I say, listen to this responsibly. Age can slow it down if we've altered our level of activity with age. But now all of you guys are going back to being your teens in these 90 days. You're going to be younger than your teens. I at least became stronger, faster, more alert than when I was 17. So I'm inviting you guys to always defy age, and you will see how you do that over these 90 days. So on the flip side, how do we increase metabolism? Well, firstly, you eat meals at regular intervals. So 5 to 6 meals a day. Smaller meals, it's also been sent to you guys in the nutritional guide document that was sent at the start of the challenge. Eat plenty of fruits and vegetables. Why? We spoke about it at the start of this session. We said to trick our metabolism, let's give it the foods that break down faster. When we give it the foods that break down faster, our body releases the acid that breaks food down faster. Then when we eat something that's complex, it will our system will be conditioned to start breaking it down faster. So at some point, we could start breaking complex foods down a bit faster. But for now, we want to keep fueling it with the foods that burn faster. If you think of a fire, a very thick log takes longer to burn than small twigs. So putting small twigs into a fire boosts our metabolism. Similarly, the cellular structure of fruits and vegetables are what we call monosaccharides, or very simple carbs, and they break down a lot easier. Drink green tea and coffee. So green tea has this ingredient called adiponectin. Adiponectin is something that really contributes to boosting our metabolism, and it also caffeine contributes to increasing our metabolism. Obviously, in moderation. Going overboard or thinking, oh, just drinking coffee will boost my metabolism is not the answer. It's a very unhealthy way of doing it again. Exercising regularly. Remember, we have to create the demand to command the metabolism. So creating demand is two types of demand. We create demand for energy, and we create demand for muscle building. So that's why we have two types of cardio. And the next one is HIIT is an example, doing high intensity interval training. And finally, unfortunately, this slide is not showing up the way it should because I'm using a live version. But cold showers are a brilliant way of boosting our metabolism. I'm going to see if I can say this little metabolism booster. So you guys want to keep your eyes alert. Can I just check, guys? I want to be responsible about time. We did have a tech breakdown. I do apologize for that. Are we all okay to be on for about another 10 minutes? It might be just under 10 minutes. But
yeah, sure.
I'd love to wrap this up with you guys and have you not miss this webinar. So here's a great video for you to watch. It's a big treat for you guys. Cover your kids' eyes, guys. You can unmute yourselves if you're laughing or crying. All right, awesome. So I just wanted to share that with you. Is that was something I introduced in my challenge, and I'm sharing with you guys stuff that really, really causes mad results. It's summer now in the northern hemisphere. Those of you that, if I say go for a cold shower now, it's not a big hassle. I did mine in starting January, and that video was I watched a particular TED talk, which I'm going to share with you guys, and I highly encourage you to watch this TED talk. And in there, this guy talks about how cold showers changed his life, doing it for 3 months, and he carried on since. And I also started that in February 22nd or whenever I recorded, that was the date. And that was Fat Me. And since then, it's a big, big, big contributor to triggering metabolism. It's something that's not used a lot out there. Top athletes use it. They use ice bucket. They use nitrogen baths. I don't know what they call nitro oxide, these cells that they go into this equipment that Tony Robbins uses. A host of people use this. It's brilliant for boosting your metabolism. It's also great for shortening recovery time when it comes to when you've had hard workouts. So the way bodybuilding works or muscle building works is if you work out a muscle group today, often we need 3 or 4 days for it to recover, 2 or 3 days. Cold showers in between help contribute to that recovery period being less, maybe 2 days. So I'm going to, that's one thing that I took on. And my invite to you guys is, first of all, yes, that's all we had. So start to get uncomfortable. So watch this video. This video that I'm sharing next is the YouTube, the TED talk that I watched about how cold showers can change your life. And then my invite to you is to start showering immediately with cold showers, and start doing it till the next webinar. See if you can do it every single day. I did it in 2 or 3 degrees temperature here. And the South Africans, before you say it's winter there, when I was there for my visit, I showered with cold showers there. It was freezing. And South Africa is not designed, the homes are not designed with central heating like London is, but it was cold, and I invite you guys to still take it on. And those of you, if you look at our group, every challenge, when we share this webinar, many of the brave do take a video of them showering. You can do it in your swimming trunks or bikinis or whatever works for you. Share that video. It will have you get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Share it on the closed group, share it whichever way you want, or don't. Like, it's an invite, it's an open invite for you to do it. The second part of today's webinar's assignment is take on one cardio activity to burn 500 calories. Now, it will vary how long it takes you to do that, but I want you to find out how long you take to burn 500 calories and what type of activity will allow you to burn 500 calories in one activity. The heavier you are, the easier it is to burn 500 calories. The lighter you are, the longer it will take. But start from tomorrow or tonight. I'm going to take an activity today where I will burn 500 calories. See what it is for you. Is it an hour of walking? Is it 2 hour and a half of walking? Is it 30 minutes on elliptical? Is it 30 minutes of a stair climber? You tell me, but a certain how long it takes you start knowing your body to burn 500 calories. And this is optional. Send us a recording of you training some workout in the gym to get feedback. And this is because in the next webinar, we're going to talk about form of exercises. Over the next 2 or 3 webinars, we're going to look at form. A lot of us go to the gym and we waste our time. Why? Because we relate to the gym objectively. We relate to the gym as work. I want you to also start thinking about this and start shifting this perception about gym. If you go to the gym thinking, oh, I have all this to do, all this workout to do, you're possibly thinking about gym as an objective task, which means you think each exercise is about moving a weight from point A to point B, or running a kilometer, you think it's going from here to there. When you're thinking about the taking something from A to B, you're thinking about it objectively. If you think about it functionally, you start enjoying the journey. So lifting a weight is not, the muscle building does not happen in taking the weight, say, in a bicep curl from the side of your thigh up to the top of your shoulder. It's about that journey as it moves through the air. And it's that journey that contributes to the build. We'll talk more about that journey of each range of motion of an exercise that contributes to it. But in the interim, if you'd like to take some videos, ask somebody to film you on a few of these exercises, post them in the group and ask for feedback. And If you're clear you're doing it well, tell us you know you're doing it well. If you're not sure you're not doing it well, ask us what you're not sure. The more you ask, the more you get contributed to. The more you share, the more vulnerable you are, the more access you have to your power. Just as we've seen today with Kerry Ann and Lisa and everybody that's been sharing what comes up in their way, your best way to disappear that is to share it out there. Great. We're going to wrap up there. I have a hunch that the format of this Dropbox presentation I'm showing won't show me the next quotes I need to show. There's a few quotes there, but I'm just going to leave you this quote: "Get comfortable being uncomfortable." So I'll share these. The format that I'm using isn't allowing me to click through overlaying slides. But I'm going to leave you with that, guys, and that's the end of the webinar. Are there any final questions, comments, feedback?
I just have one question.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have apples before I go to bed. Is there something wrong with having fruit before you go to bed?
Specifically apples. Have you recorded them on MyFitnessPal?
No.
Okay. Have you been recording any food in MyFitnessPal?
Nope.
Okay. Do you know you have to record food in MyFitnessPal?
I do. I'm just not an app person. I rarely go on apps and all that stuff, so I haven't done that.
I used to think, and especially because of, in one of the seminars we're going to talk about myths, and one of the myths are these little sayings we hear, like an apple a day keeps the doctor away, or we think apple is a great fruit because we see it being used anyway. Indeed, it is a great fruit, but till you record an apple in MyFitnessPal, you will have no idea how much sugar you're putting in you. And therefore, what's happening is if you're having it before you go to bed, that sugar does not have a chance to get burned, and it's possibly going to storage. There are other foods that you can have, like a banana, and the reason is banana has a certain level of fiber and potassium and pectin that counters the effect of the sugar, but apples have loads of sugar in it. Fruit juices have loads of sugar in it. So the answer is yes, but I don't want to be coaching by just giving you the answer. I'd love for you to actually record it on MyFitnessPal.
You have to pay each month to go on FitnessPal, which is what I don't really want to do either.
Sorry, what's the pay?
Is it free?
Yeah, it's absolutely free. Yep.
Okay.
It is free. The apps we're recommending are all free. We are paying a premium so that we can actually view. You have to share your diaries. If you go back to session 1 and watch the recording, there's also a video on our YouTube page which shows you how to use and set up MyFitnessPal. Please all subscribe to our YouTube channel so that we can you can get updates. But what you want to do is use these apps when you record it for 5 days in a row. If you ever want me to review your diary, you have to record all your meals for 5 days in a row, then I can review it and really give you some valuable feedback. If you do it intermittently, I will not be able to identify a pattern. And you have to be true to yourself of what you record in MyFitnessPal. And to anybody that recording MyFitnessPal occurs as a chore, this is my invite to you. It's only for 12 weeks of your life, and once you've done it for 12 weeks, your relationship to estimation of foods, food sizes, and types of foods would have shifted. So we've now got 8 weeks left, and my invite to you guys is to do it for the remaining 8 weeks without fail, 7 days out of 7 days. Any further questions? Anyone else?
No.
Okay, guys. So we'll wrap up there, and thank you all for being on. Have a powerful, fit, phenomenal week and life ahead, and keep sharing, keep inspiring people, because there's nobody coming to transform this world. It's only you guys that we have. You guys are the leaders. Thanks, everyone. Have a powerful week. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Darshan. Bye.